Welcome to Fulbright Jordan. In honor of International Archaeology Day, we're pleased to be partnering with Acor to offer tonight's lecture. Representing Acor tonight are Deputy Directors Nasreen Abu-Sheikh and Dr. John Sherman. I'd like to introduce briefly our speaker, Dr. David Vila. He's a distinguished professor of religion and art philosophy at John Brown University and holds the Abila chair in the archaeology and history of the biblical world. He has been excavating in Jordan since 1990 through the Vila Archaeological Project and is here this year as a Fulbright scholar based at Yarmouk University and continuing his work at Abila. Tonight, Dr. Vila will share how archaeology can inspire connections and offer lessons for building a better world. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Vila to the podium.
Thank you so much. I don't have a loud voice, and so if I need to speak up, just let me know. As I begin my talk this evening, I want to start by giving thanks to a number of parties. First and foremost, I want to thank both the American Center of Research, Acor, and the Binational Fulbright Commission for sponsoring tonight's lecture. I also want to make sure and thank the U.S. Fulbright Scholar Program that's made it possible for me to be in Jordan this year, teaching at Yarmouk University and partnering with the Department of Antiquities of Jordan. My home institution in the United States, John Brown University, has given me a sabbatical this year so that I could come to Jordan and relieve me of my duties at the university. So I'm thankful for that as well. But most of all, I'd like to thank the people of Jordan. My first visit to Jordan was in 1990 when I came to work with a small archaeological excavation near the rural village of Harta, just 3 kilometers from the Syrian border. I came assuming that I would probably never have the chance to be back in Jordan again. Little did I know then that Jordan would play a massive role in my academic pursuits, my career, and in my life generally for the next 35 years and counting. One final comment, and I'm required to say this. The views and opinions that I'll express tonight are mine and mine alone. I don't represent the United States government, the State Department, the embassy, the Fulbright program, Acor. I don't speak as a representative of Yarmouk University or the Department of Antiquities. The opinions I express tonight are my own. The title of my talk tonight is Archaeology and the Promise of a Better World. I'm going to start out with a few general comments to set the stage, and then we'll turn to the archaeological work that I've been involved with for the past 35 years at Abila of the Decapolis in Northwest Jordan. We're living in very strange times indeed. After the horrors of World War II had ended and the world was beginning to move beyond the fascism, racism, and violence that in many ways threatened our very existence, I don't think that many people would have thought that we would be living in a world today where the seeds of nationalism, sometimes bordering on fascism, were again beginning to sprout. Xenophobia and anti-immigrant policies are on the rise across the globe. Even in my own home country, the United States, we're building walls and expelling immigrants in ways that reflect a nationalistic and xenophobic spirit that is out of accord with many truly American ideals. Under the guise of an America First policy, we're cutting USAID funding that is so critical to helping those in desperate need around the world, and instead are embarking on trade wars that once again alienate nations and engender animosity, even with our closest international allies. These sorts of sentiments are beneath, I think, the American ideal inscribed on our Statue of Liberty. Keep ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she, with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. And interestingly, Emma Lazarus, who wrote the poem, did so thinking of the Jewish refugees who had fled anti-Semitic pogroms in Eastern Europe as they arrived into New York Harbor. And finally, though we are seeing glimmers of hope in recent days, the ethnic cleansing and the theft of lands taking place just on the other side of the river from where we are now, and the massacre of the Palestinian people for the past 2 years, cry out to us that there must be a better way. And I think there is a better way. In contrast to the confrontational way of dropping bombs and isolating ourselves and instigating trade wars, there's a way of diplomacy, foreign aid, and cultural exchange that, though not as dramatic and entailing patience that only bear fruit over time, I believe is a better way. I'm thinking here in terms of programs like USAID and entities like Acor and the Binational Fulbright Commission here in Jordan. Entities like these at a fraction of the cost, both in terms of human lives and in dollars, promote the cross-cultural understanding and mutual cooperation and benefit that can help keep us from resorting to bombs and guns. My first interaction with the Binational Fulbright Commission was in 1995, when I came to Jordan as a junior researcher, working on my doctoral dissertation on early Christian-Muslim relations. My year in Jordan, studying at Acor and researching at Jordan University, set the stage for the rest of my career. Then, during the 06-07 academic year, the Fulbright program again brought me to Jordan. This time as a scholar, teaching in the English department at Jordan University and researching through the archaeology department that was then under the direction of Dr. Maysoon al-Nahar. As a result of my time in Jordan, John Brown University started a Jordan Summer Studies program, whereby students spend 2 months in Jordan over the summer, working with the Abila excavation and visiting archaeological sites, taking university classes, all focused on Jordan. Students take a class called Art and Archaeology of Jordan and another called Islam in Context that studies Islam, especially as manifested in the people and places of Jordan. Over the years, nearly 300 students from my small university in Arkansas have come on the program, and by extension through them and the students in my university classes, thousands have been influenced and come to a deeper and richer understanding of Jordan, the Arab world, Islam, and the Middle East generally. In addition, John Brown University set up an endowment of about $6 million to support the work of the Jordan Studies and related programs, thus ensuring that the work and benefits will continue long after you and I are gone. I think of students like Gabrielle Marcy, who spent 2 summers with us on the Jordan Studies program and then decided to live in Nablus, Palestine, and teach at a school for disadvantaged children. She convinced 3 fellow students to do the same, and the group taught there for 3 years. Or David Stepanek, who also came with us twice, and at the end of his second trip said to me, "Dr. Vila, I'm not going home." I told him, "What do you mean you're not going home?" And he told me that he was going to stay and live in Madaba and teach English at the Orthodox school there. Or there's Katie Sessler, who after the trip went to Saudi Arabia to get a master's degree in hydraulic engineering after becoming aware of the tremendous water issues in this part of the world. Or David Brown, who went on to get a PhD in Near Eastern archaeology at UCLA, or Linda Wyman, who went to Lebanon to teach at an elementary school there after falling in love with the Arab and Muslim world. These and many others had their worlds expanded and came to understand that they too can be a part of making the world a better place, one small step at a time. And they all gained a foothold into this world through their work with the Abila Archaeological Project. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that the Abila Archaeological Project has done in Jordan for the past 45 years, and we'll end with a specific example of how the actual work of archaeology can help us to envision a better world. The site of Abila of the Decapolis is located in northwest Jordan, approximately 20 kilometers east of the Jordan Valley and 5 kilometers south of the Wadi Yarmouk. We're 20 kilometers north of the modern city of Irbid, and along with Pella, Tabakat Fahal, Gadara, Umkais, Capitolius, Beit Ras, and a bit further east, al Jamal, form an important northern constellation of significant archaeological sites in northwest Jordan. During the first 2 seasons of excavation at Abila, work focused on surveys of the site. The coverage of the initial survey in 1980 was deemed to include a little over 20% of the site, working out from what was thought to be the city center. The survey produced just a total of just over 33,000 sherds, dating from early bronze through the middle through the modern period. Somewhat surprisingly, of the total sherds that were collected, about 95% were from between the 4th and the 8th century CE. The intent of this initial survey was to locate areas of interest in what was thought to be the center of the city. During the summer of 1982, a regional survey was conducted under the leadership of Dr. Michael Fuller that sought to locate the site of Abila within the broader settlement patterns of the area. This survey laid out 4 transects extending 2.5 kilometers from the urban center of the site. Among the findings were several farmsteads, a wine press, animal pens, many tombs, various cisterns, several water tunnels, among many other indications that there was a substantial suburban population surrounding Abila, especially during the late Roman and Byzantine periods, with occupation in various areas stretching from early bronze down to the Ottoman period. From the work done by Michael Fuller and more recently by Bernard Luca, population estimates of the site at its peak range from between 10 and 15,000 people, based primarily on the size of the urban footprint, water supplies, and the excavated tombs. After these initial surveys, excavation focused on the apex of the north and south tells, where it was clear that there was significant occupation. In time, excavation uncovered one large basilica on the north tell, two basilicas on the south tell, one more just east of the south tell, and then one more down by the Roman bridge east of the north tell. There's also what appears to be a Christian monastic complex that we call Area B, that we are dating to the late 7th or early 8th century, and a Roman bath complex labeled Area C. In addition, approximately 15 kilometers of water tunnels have been mapped, stretching from nearby springs to the center of the site, and dozens of tombs have been excavated, some with important examples of painting and wall carvings. This is our tomb H60 that was excavated in the 90s. Some of the loculi, you can see where the burials would have been placed. It was robbed out in antiquity. You can see the tomb robbers didn't want to interfere with the face. They'd dig around the side to see if there was a cavern behind, and there was, of course, on the image on the right there, and some of the wall carvings in that same tomb. After these initial surveys, excavation focused on the apex of the north and south tells, where it was clear that there was significant occupation. Oops, I said that already. Sorry, excuse me. Jump down. The work on the north tell, which was labeled Area A, began in 1982, and it soon became clear that the structure was a Byzantine basilica with significant earlier and later use. In 1994, a life-size statue of Diana Artemis was found in the area, and so excavators assumed that the area was once home to a Roman temple. And I think the restaurant that we're going to on Friday is the Artemis restaurant as well, just coincidentally. In addition, coins minted out of Vila, all of which date between the middle of the 2nd to the 1st quarter of the 3rd century CE, commonly depict a large Roman temple at the site. Most of the excavation of the basilica in Area A was done during the 1990s, but one final season was needed in 2006 to answer a few lingering questions, namely our quest for some clear indication of Roman occupation. That season we excavated a few sealed loci beneath a limestone paved plaza just south of the basilica and encountered clean late Roman pottery, dating that plaza at least to a period in which we think there was a Roman temple. Although several early seasons of excavation of the basilica on the north tell were directed by various archaeologists, Dr. John Wineland was the primary excavator of the area. The structure is a triapsidal basilica with all three apses facing east and measures 35 meters from the edge of the central threshold to the outside edge of the central salient apse. Excavation in 1992 focused on the western edge of the basilica, and an atrium measuring 16 meters by 20 meters was uncovered. Wineland proposed that the church continued in use until the massive earthquake that struck the region in the mid-8th century. After that time, it was used for light industrial and domestic occupation into the early medieval or Abbasid period. Somewhat surprisingly, until the summer of 2023, no dated inscriptions have been found in any of the 5 churches at Abila, and 4 of them, including the Area A church, have no inscriptions relating to the church whatsoever. The only inscription found in Area A was what we call the Abila stone, a limestone fragment with an inscription that mentions Abila. The lack of datable inscriptions at the site has made sequencing the construction of the churches at Abila a difficult task. Finally, adjacent to Area A, a deep probe was begun in the 1980s to trace the occupational history of the North Tell. At 10 meters of depth, that probe revealed a continuous occupation from the early Bronze period down to the early medieval or Abbasid period on the North Tell. The Area D church, located on the apex of the South Tell, often called Ahmed, was first excavated in 1984. Initial squares located several capitals, a few with inscribed crosses and numbers of tumbled columns. From the direction and lay of the columns and from the depressions in the floor surfaces uncovered in later seasons, the excavators concluded that the church likely suffered catastrophic damage during the mid-8th century earthquake. As seasons progressed, this structure was determined to be a triapsidal church with all the apses facing east. A narthex extends 3 meters to the west of the western wall under a roof which was supported by 4 monumental columns, and an atrium extends an additional 6 meters to the west. On the outer edge of the northwest of the church, the baptistry was found. The flooring on both sides of the nave is both sides and the nave is opus sectili. Along the south side of the structure, a number of pastiforia were located and excavated. The narthex, the pastiforia, and the baptistry all have mosaic flooring, some of which contains designs of baskets of fruit, geometric designs, and floral motifs. As in the Area A church, excavators determined that after the collapse of the structure in the mid-8th century, it was used for domestic occupation into the early medieval or Abbasid period. Work in this church was completed in 2008. As with the Area A church, our long-term plan is to erect a shelter over the structure and then restore and reconstruct the floor surfaces. During the 1992 season, while excavating along the western edge of the atrium of the Area D church, what appeared to be the top of a monumental staircase was visible from the surface. Upon further exploration, excavators landed upon what was to be part of an apse, and no evidence of a staircase was found. So work was halted during the 94 season, and excavation resumed under the label of Area DD. Work in Area DD uncovered a basilical structure measuring 19.5 meters from the threshold to the edge of the central inscribed apse, and 15 meters from the edges of the north and south aisles. This is the smallest of the churches at Abila. The north and south aisles were covered in carpet mosaic flooring, while the nave was paved with sheets of marble, 1 meter by 60 centimeters and 1 centimeter thick, large portions of which remained in situ. Curiously, several stylobates were uncovered in situ, but there were no capitals, no columns, and no column bases. And so we're assuming that this structure probably fell into disuse and was robbed out to build the church, the basilica in Area D described previously. We also found an empty sarcophagus, that was used for mixing plaster, probably for use in building the Area D church. As with the 2 previously described churches, this structure also had significant domestic occupation in the early medieval period. Significant also was the founding of numbers of whole glass lamps and a bronze ewer with a handle in the shape of a panther that was sitting on 15 centimeters of soil above the church floor. And so our assumption is that they were from the Area D church, and for some reason stashed in the ruins of the Area DD church, possibly at the mid-8th century earthquake. Work in the Area DD church was completed in 2006. Due east of the South Tell, another church structure was located in the year 2000 and was labeled Area G. Work there continues until today. That's what it looked like before we started excavating. Early on in the excavation, a little bit further than that. Work there continues until today, and we expect that at least 1 or 2 more seasons of excavation will be needed to complete this area. This structure is Abila's only single apse church. The nave of this church, like that of the Area DD church, was paved with marble. The north and south aisles were paved with opus sectili, significant portions of which remained in situ. And that's a reconstruction of what the floor would have looked like. Within the apse, we located a sarcophagus, which, although it had all the ceiling stones in place, was when it was uncovered, was empty. A well-preserved ambo was situated along the southern edge of the nave, 5 meters west of the altar screen. The following reconstructions were done by Mr. Taufik Hunaiti of the Amman Office of the Department of Antiquities. During the summer of 2023, we found our only dated inscription in any of the churches at Abila. Along a wall in the south pastiforia, we encountered an inscription that reads, there's where it was found, and that's the inscription. that reads, during the time of our Holy Father Epiphanios, the bishop or presider, created from the foundations and adorned with much green, in the month of April, the 13th indiction, the year 643, which is 580 CE. Lord, be glory to you. More work remains to be done, both with the translation and the conservation of the inscription. And as is so often the case, this important find was uncovered on the second to the last day of our last field season. It was then covered, and we hope to work more with the inscription and conserving it next summer. One final area of excavation that I'll discuss is the basilica in what we call Area E. This area was first located and excavated in 1990, and excavation has continued every season down to the present. We hope that with a short field season in December and then 1 or 2 more summer seasons, we'll be able to complete our work here. The church in Area D is triapsidal, but unlike the other churches at Abila, this one has the north and south apses facing north and south respectively, and a cloverleaf or cruciform shape. The structure measures 25.4 meters from the threshold to the outer edge of the central apse, and 26.6 meters from the edges of the north and south walls of the sanctuary, being wider than it is long, with 4 aisles and then the nave. To the west, a narthex measuring 5.5 meters extends to the back retaining wall that runs up against the side of the northern tell. Indentations in the floors of the narthex, along with smashed hole pots and objects such as those pictured here, give clear indication that the structure was destroyed in the great earthquake of 749 CE. In the southwest corner of the structure, a chapel was located. The floor was paved with black and white checkerboard squares, and there was an altar screen set up in the middle of the room adjacent to a small column. Throughout the church, most of the floor surfaces were paved with sheets of marble, and on many of the standing walls, there were hooks for hanging the marble facing in place. A few, but not many, a few, but not many ashlars were uncovered with the remains of finely painted plaster on them. The color is still very sharp and bright. During the 2010 season of excavation, irregularities observed on the outside edge of the east wall of the structure led our excavator in this area, Dr. Robert Smith, to hypothesize about the phasing of the structure. And so a probe was taken 3 meters on the opposite side of that wall in the interior of the church. And so the picture on the left is the outside of the church structure, and you can see there's a line of ashlars there that abut each other, that don't interlock. The picture on the right is from the inside of the church, looking at that same wall, and a probe was taken there just in front of that wall. The probe landed on a paved mosaic surface, and so squares were opened in the north and south aisles that revealed what we are fairly certain is an earlier church located 1 meter below the one being excavated. And so this is the floor surface of the cruciform church, and there's a giant mosaic floor that covering the entire surface below that. Crosses excavated in the middle of the aisles, as well as an altar screen with a mosaic cross in the north aisle, seemed to confirm the view that it was a church. No more work was done on this lower church because of a desire not to disturb the upper church. At present, we have no clear indication as to why the lower church might have been buried to build the upper church. Work during our 2014 season of excavation down to the present has focused on the northern side of the structure. In 2016, part of an altar screen was uncovered with a carved human figure. The stone on which the icon was found appeared to have been laid deliberately, but it's not yet clear exactly what function it served. This feature might have served, if nothing more than a paving stone. Eventually, squares on the north side of the main church structure revealed nicely paved mosaic surfaces and what appears to be a walkway around the southeast corner of that adjacent structure. So this is the walkway that goes around the structure on the north side of the church. On the east wall of one of the walkways, a nicely carved menorah was a nicely carved menorah was found. Sadly, that got robbed out just a few months after this picture was taken, after we'd left and gone back to the States. It's the only evidence that we have so far of Jewish occupation at the site. It's obviously reused in this church structure, but we don't know where the original building was that it came from. At the northern end of the walkway, a protrusion in the wall in a semicircular form led us to believe that we had discovered an apse. And so our hope was that there might be a baptistry attached to our Area E church on the north side, as is common in the region, and indeed as we found in our Area D church. There are 12 courses of stones in situ on the apse and the adjoining wall. As can be seen in this photo, there was significant phasing in the use of the church. The entryway above was sealed up at some point to enclose the room on the other side. From the surface footprint of the structure, we were indeed hoping to find a baptistry. During our 2023 season, the baptismal pool was located in the interior of the apse and between two statuary niches. Work on the baptistry will continue in December and then next summer as well. As I conclude my talk for this evening, I want to turn our attention to one of the more interesting and I think hope-inspiring things found in the Area E Church. Along the south wall of the structure, the pastaphoria were excavated. And interestingly, along the south wall, 3 niches were uncovered. 2 of them had been filled in with plaster in antiquity, leaving only one open. In informal conversations with a number of scholars, they all confirmed my suspicions that the niche is likely a mihrab, and that possibly the room was converted into a musalla, a Muslim prayer space, during the early Islamic period. Rena Abner's work at the Kathisma Church just outside of Bethlehem and work done at the Shifta Church in the Negev, among a few others, give evidence of the presence of Muslim prayer spaces inside of Christian churches. And so it wouldn't be unheard of for that to be the case here as well. To check the dates, a sample of plaster from the central niche, which contained 3 charred olive pits, was removed and sent for carbon dating. Somewhat to my surprise, the results came back with a date even earlier than I had anticipated. The results from the testing indicated that the olive pit had a 95.4% chance probability of dating between 561 and 651. That is roughly a century before the church structure was destroyed in the 749 earthquake. In this scenario, sometime in the first half of the 7th century, Muslim worshippers, or using Fred Donner's helpful, I think, terminology, Muslim believers, filled in the 2 niches in the south wall of the Area E Church and then used this space for prayer facing Mecca. They did so, it would appear, for as much as a century before the structure was finally destroyed in the earthquake of 749. In other words, it is quite possible that for nearly a century, Muslim believers and Christians shared this sacred space, seemingly with little hostility between them. Could we have here then an example of 2 diverse groups living in harmony, even worshiping in harmony for a century, until a natural disaster brought an end to their union? Well, it's possible. And if so, then even here in the arcane and dusty world of archaeology, maybe we have an example that we can also look to in our quest for a better world, a world in which we live to learn in harmony instead of animosity. In conclusion, I don't think archaeology is going to bring an end to the wars that rage around us. I don't think that digging up the past is going to overnight convince our leaders that we really ought to try a bit harder to live together in harmony. But I do think in small ways, taking one small step at a time, the cross-cultural encounters and even sometimes the actual findings of archaeological research can help us to aspire and reach for a better world. And I do hope that it will be so. Thank you. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, this actually 25%, which means that, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, that's the range of dates for this olive pit. Well, 636 is when the Battle of Yarmouk. Right. No, I don't date it at 561. It's a range of dates for that pit. Well, right. I mean, with anything that it's a matter of probability. And so somewhere in that time period. Right. If we had an inscription that told us when that was done, that would be ideal. But all we have is the carbon dating from the Ala pit. And so it's possible that it sometime between that period, 561 to 651, and obviously if it's done by Muslims to create a mihrab, it would have to be, post 636 probably.
Not this stuff. Three decades to. So.
Right. The Battle of the Yarmouk was right down the road from our site in 636. Yeah. Well,
At least by the upper.
right. The upper one
Yeah, it's,
too early,
yeah.
possibly. Yeah.
See, the way it works, we have full another injury.
Yeah.
You have all the bills.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is, I think it's not really more accurate. If it's 95% accurate, probably it's not.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure much better can be had. Yeah. Yeah.
It's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Of course. No, of course. Other questions or? Yeah.
I was talking for that moment. I just wanted to ask, like, I noticed like your sign is
So many.
so many facets.
Yeah.
Within the cycle, in the same spot, so that's just many chills.
Yeah.
And usually these are built around like a component, like a church, a building.
Yeah.
Like it's fine, but they're supposed to show. And I wanted to know, like, if there was like some sort of, because I know there was some sort of standardization of the Christian church of the books, like in the early so my question is there a chance that there was a like standardization? Like wasn't embedded like just the church, like the state secular building as a structure? At the same time, there was like one for the church, one for the secular needs. Like, is there a chance for that? Or no, there's no.
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. There actually are not that many churches at Abila. I mean, we have 6 maybe. Other cities in the region will have 15, 16, 18 churches. And so 6 is really actually not too, there's probably several more churches that we haven't found yet. But your question is about.
Like the standardization.
Yeah.
Okay, there was, now, a city was a secular.
Yes.
For secular needs, there wasn't meant to be like a basic portion.
Yeah.
Okay, like, but when you get conversion of the Roman Empire, Christian, especially in the 1380s, it became like standardization that a church has to be in some sort of facility or octagonal shaped church. So especially in the eastern part of the empire. So my question is that even with time, when the empire became polyculture, all these buildings usually are standardized to become basilica in shape, to become a church. Okay. The secular part stayed like within the city, so that diversity of architecture. If you got what I mean.
I'm still not, what, I'm not sure what the question is. But yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, the
Like that way.
yeah, no, the structure is a common one. I mean, there are octagonal churches, like there's octagonal church at Umkes, Tiberias, other places, Bethlehem. But many churches are built, rectangular, basilical shape. Yeah.
I have a question that's similar to what he's asking.
Yeah.
Is that, my thinking was that, were the temples in place and did the Christians just co-opt the temple that were there and just use them for Christian purposes? Because the temple, the shape of the church is basically what like a Roman temple would be.
Yeah. Yeah, as happened in Damascus with a temple being turned to church, being turned into the Umayyad mosque there in Damascus. On the area a church where the statue of Diana with Artemis was found. It appears that the church was built on top of the foundation of the temple structure. And so, but our other churches, I mean, I don't think we're having a building that's modified, that's turned into a church building after it was a secular basilica, except for maybe the church in Area A. It's possible that's what's happening there. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, of course.
What I meant that originally, what need to be secular.
Yeah.
Well, secular, what both. Now, Christianity right now, church of the population, only and Christian, so any church. Now there was no like specific type to what church should look architecture, right? So now they have this standardization of how the church should look. How the basilica or octagonal, like the biggest part of the Protestant home. And well, my question is that maybe within this now it's like the besides each other, the basilicas for both for secular, okay, for secular needs, and also intended to be a church, like for the one. Okay, like one basilica was the way is what originally, and decided at church, no, that's for the specifically to state as a church. That's my question. That continued that part, unlike some other parts of Roman cities, where no basilica, only a church.
Yeah, I'm still not clear on what's being asked.
I would say that if you want to discuss.
Yeah,
this,
we can talk maybe. Yeah, well, there are other questions. We can chat afterwards. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So before you finish up, I just want to make sure that we do a preview for those who are going to the site, but after other questions.
Sure. Yeah.
Very interesting, Dave. I have 20 questions, but I'll just stick to one for that. You mentioned a monastic complex.
Yeah.
Now, I know that at least in what had been the Western Empire by the Renaissance period, monasteries were major economic hubs, like in England until Henry VIII took them over, basically.
Yeah.
At this point in the Eastern Empire, was a monastery a major economic center, or was it what we think of as a monastic and like leading to itself?
Well, this one, if it is a monastic complex, it's in the middle of the city. And actually, let me get to the picture here. Okay, there we go. So if you, oops, it's not up there. Okay, so this is, that's our Area G church. This is what's sometimes called our theater cavea. One thing you didn't hear me talk about was a Roman theater at Abila, or a Hellenistic theater. When the first people passed through the region, mapping out different archaeological locations, they indicated that they saw a theater at Abila. And this is what they saw, this semicircular, that's not a natural, that there's something going on there. We've not found any architectural evidence that this is a theater. And so we're not sure what's going on there. It doesn't appear to be a theater. But back in the wall right there, there's a large archway, and inside it there's an inscription that reads "To Zeus" in Greek. But we haven't found evidence of there being a theater at Abila yet. And the monastic complex that I mentioned is this right here. That's not a very good picture. You can't see, but right there, there's an apse, and it's in a small room that's kind of cut off from the rest of the building. It hasn't been fully excavated because of the overburden that's coming down from the side. It's gotten too dangerous, and so we stopped excavating that area back in the late 90s, I think, until we can put a little bit more resources into making it safe. But this is a monastic complex right in the heart of the city. So it's not, desert monks out in the middle of nowhere or down by the Jordan Valley, leaving society. This is a monastic complex, if that's what it was, that was right in the heart of the city. Yeah.
Not really a question about the discoveries, but more about the site management.
Yeah.
What is does community play a role in this site? Are they involved? Are they involved in research? What is the community around the site? You know, what's the nearest city, government? I mean,
Yeah,
sorry, like-
Right. No, those are very good questions and very important questions. You know, Abila is a fortunate site in that it's out in the middle of nowhere. The villages surrounding it, Harta, Eubla, Hibras, and others are starting to encroach a little bit onto areas where there's archaeological remains. But for the most part, it's virgin territory. It's untouched. There's no parking lots paved over structures, like you have at Jerash. You know, most of Jerash, a lot of Jerash is under the modern city of Jerash, but Abila is, we're blessed in a sense that we don't have that. It's out in the middle of nowhere. We do get, we hire probably 70 to 80 local Jordanians who work with us every year in the excavation. They do a lot of the sifting of soil, pushing wheelbarrows, those sorts of things. We have school groups who come through and tour the site while we're there, and we give them tours. But it's kind of out from any of the surrounding villages. And so there's not a whole lot more community involvement that's gone on other than that. That's one of the things that my proposal for my Fulbright was to work on, mapping out strategies to get the local communities more involved in the work that's being done at Abila. There's our biggest challenge is looting. The site is looted. We excavate usually every other year, and it's shocking to come back. I mentioned the stone with the menorah on it. I mean, literally 6 months after that was excavated, we put giant ashlar blocks all around it, piled up probably 2 meters of soil. It's in direct eye shot of the guardhouse where there's a guard 24/7. And 6 months later, when I came back to visit the site, it was gone, and was on the antiquities market, probably, I don't know, who knows where, but it happens a lot. Part of the reason why we also don't excavate tombs anymore is because they degrade when they're found, but also it encourages looting. And so, yeah, that's one of our biggest challenges. So we try to involve the local communities as much as we can to make them aware this is the future. Now there's 1 or 2 Airbnb type of places in Harta. There's the Abila rest house there, where someone has blocked off a few rooms in their home and built a pool in the backyard so they can have make a little hotel there. And so tourism is starting to develop there. But right now we're so far north and so far off the beaten path. It's not, on many people's touristic route as they pass through Jordan. A lot of folks don't get north of Jerash. But it was announced about 10 days ago, but the European Union, in conjunction with the Italians, have set aside 5 million euros for development, for tourism and site management development at Abila. And so that's a huge thing for the site. Very, very hopeful. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So if you want to explore,
Okay.
And actually, I can have, I have my PhD in this.
Yeah, well, good. I'll talk to you afterwards. Of course. Yeah.
Someone who goes through this.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the exact number to secure our home.
Yeah, good.
So
I hope so.
I know that you can.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mary, for this interesting lecture. And Abila is really a site that I've heard since, as you mentioned, long time ago.
Yeah.
So just for curiosity, what is the percentage of the undiscovered part of Abila? What archaeologists?
Yeah. It's a very large site. The archaeologist who began the work in 1980 decided that he was going to focus on monumental architecture, primarily the churches. And so most of the work that's been done has been finishing the work that he started on these monumental structures. Not much work has been done at all on the domestic occupation of the site, the suburban areas of the site. And so I think probably 2 to 3% of the site has been uncovered so far. Most of it still lies underground. And so it's going to be, generations of work there, which is good and bad. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Why is the slow progress of the excavations starting in 1980 and 2025? Is it mainly
Yeah.
due to lack of funds?
Well, it's a number of things. For American archaeologists, we can come usually just during the summertime. And so we come for a month, 2 months during the summer, and then we go home and we're gone. Now, one way to alleviate that is to work in closer cooperation with local universities, with Jordanian universities. And so Yarmouk University has done some excavating in a couple different areas of the site, and they've actually been doing some of the domestic occupation of the site with classes, in conjunction with classes that they're teaching in the archaeology department there. And so we need to work more with them to coordinate things. And that's partly why I'm up at Yarmouk University, so that I can coordinate with them more, so that we can have excavation even ongoing throughout the year. We have funding, and so I think it will speed up the progress of the work from here on out. Yeah.
My understanding that Decapolis is on the eastern side of the Jordan Valley.
Mostly, yeah.
How come we don't find cities part of the Decapolis on the western side?
Of the Jordan Valley? Well, there's Beit Shan is there. Yeah, but I don't know. The Decapolis was not. It's a loose conglomeration of cities that had an identity to itself, but it wasn't an official political designation. And so the list of Decapolis cities varies. Some have as many as 15, 16 cities in them, with different ones and different lists. It's kind of like when I talk to my students in the United States. If you're from the United States, you know that there's an area called New England. Well, what is New England? It's not a state. I mean, they have a football team, the New England Patriots. So there's something, but it's not quite a state. It's just more kind of a loose association, a loose conglomeration of states. The Decapolis, I think, was kind of like that. Yeah.
See, and New England is different. They put the slew with you, not slew yet.
Yeah.
I wasn't in New Hampshire,
Yeah.
I can tell you that everything is named after me. Even Harvard said things after the real.
Yeah.
So basically, they're trying to take the culture and just superimpose it to Harvard. And everything gets named after.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting that you are relating that here. And that's an interesting thing. This is a Christian area. We know that it's an area. A lot of monuments, a lot of probably heads.
Yeah.
So it's just when Islamic period started, I don't think they were worried much about praying here and there. They were talking about Iraq, Turkey, India, Pakistan. No, they didn't. Language here. I mean, this is not an area of interest to anyone. From the desert. I can tell you why, because this, the book that happened. And just moved. They moved to the Persian Empire, and then they moved to the Turkish part. So they didn't language here for long. I can tell you that. So basically, I don't think anybody maybe later.
I do think that.
This can be approved.
I think if you ask the Obeidat family, they would say that it's a pretty special area. But today. Any other questions or?
Thank you, David.
Okay. Yes. And so let me. Okay, I'm going to go to an overview picture of the site and show you where we're going to go. Whoops. Okay, so this is This is the site. This is the area D and area DD churches. This road right here connects to the main road that goes out of Harta. So when we gather to meet, we're going to meet right there. This is a picture from a few years ago. There's a parking lot right there. And so if you go in through Samarusan, you'll hit the circle where Harta is, the entrance to Harta. You take a right, and it'll be a road that runs right along down here. And there's a sign that says Quelba, the Arabic name for our site. Come down this road, park right there. And we're going to start with a tour of the South Tell. We'll tour the Area D Basilica, the Area DD Basilica, and some of the stuff that's up there. We'll go to the edge here and look out over the entire site and show you kind of a big picture of what's going on at the site. We'll walk down this hill here. Make sure you wear good shoes. You know, there's nothing paved. There's lots of rocks, there's sand, and so you need good walking shoes and comfortable clothing for the trip. We'll walk down the side of the tell here and walk down to, this is area B. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the monastic complex a little bit. We'll talk about the Roman temple there, the Roman bath complex there. We'll climb up the stairs and visit area G where the inscription was found. It's covered up now, but we'll visit the area G church. Then we'll come down, walk down here, visit the area E church. You'll see the baptistry over here. And then we're also going to go, I didn't talk about this, but the Roman bridge is right here. It's a massive, massive Roman bridge. It's silted up over the past 3,000 years, but 2,000 years. But when that bridge was standing, we did take a probe down to the footing of that bridge, and it's 10 meters down. And so we have a bridge that's 10 meters high, crossing the Wadi back and forth, and probably about maybe 5 to 8 meters wide, 30 feet, 10 meters up in the air that cross the Wadi. And you can still, we drive giant dump trucks of soil and bulldozers across the Roman bridge, and it's still standing today, which is a shocking thing. It's amazing, and it's in very good shape. So we'll see the Roman bridge. We won't get to visit the tombs. Most of the tombs are sealed up. There's one or two that are open. They're not very accessible. They're back up in this area over here, but all along the side of the Wadi, primarily on the east side, but some on the west side is where the tombs are located. But they're all sealed up to keep them from degrading, the ones that have been excavated. Anything else? Yes. You need to bring water. There's no water at the site. There is the Ain Quelba, actually there's an underground aquifer. If you want to dig down about 30 feet, you can find water underneath under these green trees here. There's a spring down here, Ain Quelba, and then there's another spring about another kilometer to the north. So bring water, and it's a primitive site. There's no bathrooms, okay? And so keep that in mind. Well, actually, there's lots of bathrooms. These are them right there. And so I'm not kidding. So plan accordingly as best as you can. Yeah. Whatever's comfortable. Shorts are fine. It's a very rural area. People tend to be a little bit more conservative, but for tourists coming through on it's cool. Yeah. It's in Fahrenheit, it'll be probably 65 to 75. So I don't know what that is in Celsius. Anything else I need to?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you all very much. Thank Dr. David again. We have food and refreshments, so please feel free. And I think the conversation can continue.
Yeah.
People tell them we have to do a lot of hiking. I'm 63 years old. I'm probably older than you, maybe. Yeah, how old? 59. Oh, it's older than me. I'm 69. No, I'm